Hello, everyone, and welcome to another recap race analysis here on the Cycling Dane Extra channel if you're listening on the Cycling Dane podcast. As always, I'm joined by Patrick Blake of Oude Cycling, and here, the second or third monument of the year, Ronde van Vlaanderen. And I mean, Patrick, what a show it was. Great weather, and what happened in the race.
Yeah, it was a fantastic day in Flanders to be riding bikes. And we started off, it took about 40 kilometers or so for the breakaway to form. But when we did, we had a 8-man breakaway. It included, and forgive me if I miss anybody, but there was Connor Swift, Sean Flynn, Timo Rosen, Marco Haller was up there, Verqueel was up there, Roy Townsend, and a couple of others who I can't exactly remember, forgive me. But anyway, that pretty much led to a pretty status quo. The next interesting thing that happened was that we did see a crash by Mathieu van der Poel just outside, I think it's somewhere 100 to 150 kilometers to go. It was a pretty high speed crash. He got up pretty quickly and was back on his bike, but who knows what kind of influence that had on his body for the rest of the race. Obviously, then we had a counter-attacking move, which included Tadej Pogacar and Stefan Kung, most namely, who then got up the road to try and bridge up to the breakaway. Behind them, there was a group including Filippo Ganna and Quentin Hermans who were trying to chase that second group. Eventually, Ganna, Kung, and Tadej Pogacar managed to make it into that front group altogether in the breakaway, and they had about a minute's gap. UAE Team Emirates were automatically pushed onto the front because pretty much every other team had representation in the front there. I think Dan Holer was there for Lidl Trek, so it was up to UAE Team Emirates. Morgado, Pollitt, Vellens was involved in that crash, so he didn't really take part in the race. And pretty much UAE Team Emirates had to be completely burnt up to just try and bring back that move or try and get it as close down as possible. Because then really the main thing that happened in the race was when Tadej Pogacar attacked on the first Oude Kwaremont-Paterberg combination. Of that first Oude Kwaremont, we see Pogacar launching it. Pollitt set him up. Van der Poel's a little bit out of position, so Pogacar is followed by Wout van Aert and Mathieu Jorgensen, and then Van der Poel manages to get on their wheel alongside Mads Pedersen. So pretty much all the main protagonists that we were expecting ended up towards the front of the race. They eventually caught the breakaway. Yeah, after that first Oude Kwaremont-Paterberg combination, I think it was on the Paterberg actually that they caught them. Then we move on. Oh, it might have been after, actually, it might have been on the Koppenberg. I apologise. But after all that, they came together. We see Pogacar's attack on the Steenberg Dries. That actually was a relatively decisive move, considering that it's not usually a very typical place to attack, but Pogacar attacked nonetheless, because that's what he does. And he took Van der Poel away, and eventually just ended up with the Jumbo, or the Visma Lease bike riders were in a group behind chasing Van der Poel and Pogacar. So it was Jorgensen, Benoit with Wout van Aert, Kung and Stuyven all trying to chase Van der Poel and Pogacar, and eventually it kind of yo-yoed. It came back and then it went again on a next climb, and it came back and it went again. And then eventually the main thing that happened in the race was that on the final Oude Kwaremont-Paterberg combination, on that Oude Kwaremont, we see Tadej Pogacar just about catch Wout van Aert at the start of that climb. He tried to do a bit of a preemptive move, did Wout van Aert, and Pogacar just puts the hammer down, and you see Van der Poel go with him. You see the shoulders start to kind of rock side to side, and the gap goes from a wheel to a meter to 5 meters to 10. Van der Poel starts to slow down. Pogacar just begins to go away, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Pogacar ends up going over the top of Oude Kwaremont, blasts over the Paterberg as well. You see then a group behind forming of Stuyven, Pedersen, Van der Poel, who gets reabsorbed. And Wout van Aert, that group of four, fails to work together particularly well, or just not well enough to bring back this flying Tadej Pogacar, who just rides the last 10 kilometers solo and manages to win his second Tour of Flanders. And we then see a sprint behind between the Lidl Trek guys, Wout and Mathieu van der Poel, and that means that the result of today is that Tadej Pogacar wins, followed by Mads Pedersen in second place, actually. He beats Mathieu van der Poel, who finishes in third, Wout van Aert in fourth, Jasper Stuyven in fifth, then Tadej Benoit, Stefan Kung, Filippo Ganna, who did very good to finish eighth after being in the breakaway most of the day, Ivan Garcia Cortina in ninth, and Davide Ballerini in 10th, who was also in the breakaway quite a lot of the day. What did you make of all that, Scott? It was a back and forth race, wasn't it? There was always pretty much something going on.
Yeah, it was a shame we were robbed in a way. Well, like you said, we don't know much of Van der Poel. I'm not Mathieu van der Poel apologist. Obviously, I'm a big fan of it. Yeah, it was a shame that crash. You don't know what would have happened, but I suspect that even fully fit Mathieu van der Poel wouldn't have been able to keep up with that attack. Yeah, I mean, start with Tadej Pogacar, phenomenal result. His 8th monument now, second rainbow jersey to win in a row now, and his second win. I mean, is he just the best Tour of Flanders winner? I thought UAE did a very good result, but yeah, what did you think of Tadej Pogacar? Best Flanders rider we have right now?
Mm, it's hard to say. We don't know what might have happened with Van der Poel. So, like, if he didn't crash, he would just looked fantastic today, though, didn't he? Pogacar. Like, I think the main thing for me is that Pogacar was always on the attack today. You didn't really see Van der Poel. Maybe it was because of the crash, but Van der Poel didn't attack Pogacar. He was always reacting to the moves, and I think that kind of showed that Pogacar maybe is just. Yeah, he was the animator today. I don't think the race would have been anywhere near as interesting if it wasn't for Pogacar just attacking all the time. Obviously, you might have seen Van der Poel do it, but hey ho, it is what it is. Is he the most interesting one? I mean, he's so interesting the fact that he's not really a cobbled rider, or he didn't start off his career as a rider being really good at cobbles. It's just sort of something that he's grown into. So it's really interesting that he can do well over all sorts of terrain. I'd say, is he the best cobbled rider? I still think it's Van der Poel. I just think that Van der Poel. Maybe I don't. I think that crash hampered him today, and I just don't think it was the Van der Poel that we're used to. Like this wasn't. This didn't look like the Van der Poel from E3, in my opinion. Who just kind of dropped everyone super easy. So I still kind of hold that Van der Poel is the king of the cobbles, even if Pogacar did put him in a box today.
Okay, fair enough. That kind of answers what I was going to ask now. Obviously, this isn't a preview. This is a recap. But do you think would this kind of make him the favorite for Paris-Roubaix? We know the correlation between winning Ronde van Vlaanderen and winning Paris-Roubaix. We saw it last year with Mathieu van der Poel becoming the first world champion to do so in many, many years. Fabian Cancellara done it, Tom Bonen. But Tadej Pogacar, surely he is the favorite for Paris-Roubaix next week. And all those KOMs that he took as well. There we go.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I still don't think he's the favorite. He doesn't fit the build of somebody who should be winning Roubaix, let's say.
He shouldn't be winning Ronde van Vlaanderen.
No, but it's different because the climbs help him out a lot. Roubaix is just completely flat, pretty much. I think that Pogacar will be an animator next week for sure. Like I think he'll probably be top 5. But yeah, I don't know. I think he perhaps just doesn't have he's got a lot of power, but he might just he just needs a little bit more like mass really to kind of do good in Roubaix. You just see it's like the big riders that always do well in Roubaix. Pogacar isn't quite that, but he is like exceptionally good. Like he's such a good ruler as well, where he will be competitive. But in my eyes, I still hold that somebody like Van der Poel and Pedersen would stand a better chance in Roubaix than Pogacar, especially since this is going to be Pogacar's debut at Roubaix, and that experience in Roubaix seems to really pay dividends with riders doing better, kind of the more additions that they do. So yes, he's done his recons and stuff, and he's taken the KOMs, and that's really boding to be very promising. But there is a certain aspect where the lack of experience, I think, will play a part in how he does in Roubaix, but I still think he'll be really exciting in the race nonetheless.
I mean, we'll skip Maspels and we'll get to him, but number 3 on the day was Mathieu van der Poel, lowest finish since his debut in 2019. We did say in the preview, he's never won back-to-back. And here we go. Didn't win back-to-back. So 2026, Mathieu van der Poel will win. But that crash... Will he be disappointed about that? Obviously he will. He's a winner, but yeah, it's kind of sad for him, really.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Obviously, we'll never know what may have been, whether even without the crash he might have lost anyway. But you could kind of tell once he got dropped on the Oude Kwaremont that you could see almost like the enthusiasm went out of him, and how he knew he was fighting for second place, but that didn't really mean too much as somebody who's won the race 3 times and was looking to be the kind of all-time record holder of the most Tour of Flanders victories. So you can kind of see he was a bit like, oh, no. This isn't very good now. Who would have known? Like, who knows what might have happened without that crash? It was a shame, like you say. It's just on a rather, like, it wasn't even on a cobbled sector. It was just on a high speed bit of highway. It was one of the only crashes of the day, as a matter of fact. And it's just a shame that he was brought down in there. Maybe he would have done better. I like to think that he would have done better if it wasn't for that crash. But we'll never know. What do you reckon? Do you think he would have done better?
I don't know. Well, it's an unanswerable question now, isn't it? But I'd like to think that he would have been, yeah, he would have been better. I mean, not that me or you have ever raced on the world tour, but we still know the feeling of crashing. Like if you crash, any crash, it takes something out of you. So I do wonder if it just has taken a bit out of him. But I think he'll be probably heal up in a day and then he'll be ready to go for Paris once more because despite that crash, finishing third. So yeah, but okay, Mathieu van der Poel done, Tadej Pogacar done. Yeah, we'll get to you out. Don't worry. But Mads Pedersen second place, Little Trek in a fantastic position in that second group with both Stuyven and Mads Pedersen. They're two best cards. They're two like duo that they've had in so many classics. But yeah, will they be happy about this? Because Mads Pedersen has been very vocal about getting Monument. He is in a very tough era, as we know. Tadej Pogacar, Mathieu van der Poel, well, we're not getting this, and he also wants to take the Rolf Sørensen record in most wins for Danes. But surely they're happy about this. If you gave him at the start of the year and said you'll get Gevo and get second in Tour of Flanders, surely he would be happy about that.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? I would be happy, and I think the Lidl Trek should be happy with second place, because at the end of the day, like you say, they're just in an era of exceptional talents. Second place, if you had said you're going to get second place, that they'd be thinking, oh, that means we beat one of Pogacar or Van der Poel in order to do that. In an era that we're in, I think second place in this race is absolutely fantastic. I think they did a really good job today. Having Stuyven up there as well was a big bonus. I think that they did well as a team. You know, having Dan Holer up there as well early on, I think they honestly played the race as good as they could have done. Pedersen tried his best to go with Pogacar and Van der Poel on the climbs. And you know what? He did better than all the Visma bike riders at doing that. But he just wasn't quite good enough to hold them. And, you know, it is what it is. But he was the best of the rest. So I think they should be really proud of what they did today. I thought it was a very honourable performance. And second place is a fantastic result, and I think there is nothing to be ashamed of to finish second to Tadej Pogacar in this day and age.
I think this is going to also just put his confidence through the roof for Paris, because that's his actual real target, apparently. But if we go to Wout van Aert, obviously there was a number of critical stories about him after the Dwarfs Door of Vlaanderen, which I think is a bit unfair when you think about the Vuelta a España crash, the Olympics, the Dwarfs Door of Vlaanderen crash from last year, and even the E3 crash. So a lot of crashes to like recover from. There was the image of the knee as well that many people zoomed in on. But this is kind of I'm back, I'm still here.
Yeah, he did better actually as the race went on, and it was said quite a lot of times in the commentary, and I agree with it, is that he's very good when it's just a consistent effort, and not as good when it went really kind of anaerobically hard up the climbs. But when it was just off of the climbs and it's between them, and it was just about trying to bring back Pogacar and Van der Poel, he was actually very good at that kind of steady state time trial effort, which is what we've always kind of associated Wout van Aert with. It's just that he does seem to be lacking at the moment that real, just that absolute snap to be able to follow those two guys, which is kind of critical in terms of winning races. But like you say, it seems like he was just kind of getting better as the race was going on. And I don't know what's kind of going on. Like you say, the injuries he's been coming back from. He's come back from an altitude camp. You know, I thought he would have been doing maybe a little bit better at like Dwaal's Door, but I think given what happened earlier in the week, I think a fourth place here and a good performance generally from the team. They were very strong at nullifying Van der Poel and Pogacar in some of their moves. I think Visma bike can be fairly happy with today. Obviously, fourth place isn't the result they were looking for, but I think honestly they gave it their best shot. They got Benoit up in the move. They managed to sit on Van der Poel and Pogacar in order to ride over to him, and they kind of nullified the moves. They just didn't have it on the day, which again, nothing to be ashamed of in this kind of day and age up against Van der Poel and Pogacar. So fourth place, I think, again, for Visma bike, given everything that's been going on this week, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's very neatly summarized. Okay, so looking at the top 10, you summarized it before. I mean, the Eva Garcia Cortina one shocked me when you read it out, but which teams kind of were you disappointed about? Like Ineos Grenadiers just about got Filippo Ganna in there. I thought they did really good work early on in the race. They tried to really make some moves going on. Astana just got Ballerini in there. He was for many of our long time in the second or third group. But Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe for me was one of the teams where I was kind of like, okay, what's happening? Intermarché as well. They had some riders up there. Binny 35th. He wasn't even their best rider. The best rider was, I think, Lawrence Rex. So, I mean, a lot of, Bahrain victorious as well. Fred Wright, a former top 10 finisher. So there were a couple of teams that they were in that Ghana group, but just didn't have that final punch to get a top position.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there were a few teams which were a little bit lackluster. Some of them I think will be like you say, like Byron Victorious or Intermarché. I think because the main thing is for them is that they missed that preemptive move. Kung and Ghana and Benoit, and getting in that move seemed to be actually pretty fruitful. Well, especially for Kung and Benoit. And I feel like some teams missed out on that, and they probably should have been able to, considering that one move went, including Benoit and Kung, and then another move went, including Ghana, that's almost like 2 bites of the cherry which you've missed in order to get across there. And I think, like you say, I think Byron Victorious, I think they really should have been in there a little bit more. Ineos, I think, actually, they kind of did. They had Connor Swift up in that early break, and then Ghana bridged across, and then Connor Swift worked for Ghana, and, Ghana just didn't have the legs today, but they still played a pretty tactically good race, all in all. And like I say, I think Intermarché, I think I probably would have expected a bit more from Binny. But I think in terms of teams which actually did surprisingly well, I think you're right. I think Astana actually did really well. They got, I'm not sure if they actually got anybody inside the top 10.
Yeah, Ballerini.
And we got Ballerini 10th. But then I think between like 10th and 15th, they've also got like Mike Turnison in there as well. So they're getting those UCI points in. So that's pretty good for them. And so I think, Astana were pretty happy, all in all. And Ballerini, absolute performance today. And also, like, Marco Haller was fantastic as well today. He just managed to survive in that break just way longer than I thought he was going to. So, quite a few kind of overachievers today, which was good to see.
Yeah, very true. But, I don't think there's anything else to cover. We've got our preview show of Power Bay, which we're both excited about next week. So make sure to check that out. But for now, that's basically it for us. Make sure to comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and check out the podcast as well. Check out Patrick's own channel. That will be in the description. And we will see you in the next one, Power Bay, the preview. I'm looking forward to that. But until next time, we will see you around.